What is going on? Bar Down Breakdown, the live stream edition, coming to you on February 21st, 2025. And we got the whole gang here tonight. We got Mikey, Tom, and Justin. Super excited to do this tonight. This is actually what I looked forward to all week long. And it's become a new tradition, just doing this with you guys. And I'm looking forward to listening to some new tunes. And before we get to those new tunes, let's just quickly talk about this Four Nations. I know we're not technically the old version of Bar Down Breakdown anymore, but it's still part of our DNA. And I was hooked. Like I will admit I only watched the USA Canada games, like both of them. But what a night and day difference from that compared to the All-Star games. Because that was what it replaced. It replaced the All-Star games. And like, holy crap, what a difference.
Yeah.
Yeah. Dude, I mean, like, you know, it's all about having pride in your country. You know, that's like, you know, what it comes down to. Because, you know, it's constantly like, you know, who's got the better players? Is it the States? Is it Canada? Is it you know, is it Europe, you know, or, you know, Sweden and Finland? And hopefully, you know, as they start to develop this more, they start to add, you know, some more teams, because I think it was criminal that there was no Russian team.
I'm sure it's based on some of the, you know,
geopolitical standings in the world.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. Yeah, I get that. But, you know, a Russian team would be dope. I guess what like who else in kind of like Eastern Europe? Like, there's a lot of
Germany's pretty solid. Like, you know, Germany, their World Juniors team went pretty far the past couple of years. So
Czech Republic.
like Czech Republic,
yeah,
Slovakia.
the Czech Republic, right? I was gonna say, you
Finland.
know, yeah, Finland for sure.
The greater Scandinavia.
Right, yeah.
Yeah.
But now that, I mean, you know, the whole idea of, you know, playing for pride. You know, I mean, how many, like, what was it, like, less than a minute into the game, like, we were dropping gloves, you know?
Yeah.
Like, in what's essentially an exhibition. We're just beating the piss out of each other. Why the hell not, man? I love that.
Yeah, I think the NHL is definitely aware of how successful it was, because I saw one of the hockey like pages that I follow that it was the most watched hockey game, non-Stanley Cup final, in the last 35 years.
Wow, that's awesome.
Yeah, so people that were kind of like just casual hockey fans, or maybe even just like people that saw, I'm sure, Sports Center running like how they were fighting in the first like minute of the game in the previous one, a lot of people probably tuned into the championship thinking that it was going to happen again.
Right.
And once they tuned in, they realized just how fast it was. I couldn't believe just them throwing their bodies around in basically an exhibition game where there's Charlie McAvoy got hurt. Like, there's big superstars that got hurt in this tournament, and goes to show just how serious they were taking it. And it definitely has done wonders for the game. I think a lot of people bought into it, and I hope that this just replaces the All-Star game, because if you think about All-Star games in all of sports, they're viewed less and less every single year.
Oh yeah,
so,
no,
like,
they're getting more and more boring too. I mean, you know, you're talking, you know, barely anybody watches the Pro Bowl anymore. You know, because none of the big stars, you know, really want to play. And then, you know, same deal with basketball. You know, basketball is just kind of like, you know, there's like nobody bothers playing defense, and it's just like dunk after dunk after dunk after dunk. And, you know, after, you know, a quarter of that, you're like, well, what else is on? So, yeah, NHL's doing it right, you know. And, you know, it kind of goes back to the whole idea of like, you know, I like using Sidney Crosby as an example, right? I mean, like, the guy, you know, every time he negotiates his contract, he takes less and less money because he wants to put a contending team on the ice so he can hoist a cup. That's what he cares about. It's not like football or baseball or basketball where it's just about the biggest money contract that you can get. Basketball especially. I was following the trade deadline for basketball, and it was just like all of these prima donnas that just like don't want to play for the teams they're on. Yeah, and they're just like, I'm not going to do it. So either you trade me or I'm just going to sit on the bench. And like, a hockey player wouldn't dare. Do that. And I mean, you even look at like, the dog shit teams in the league right now, like the Sabres or the Ducks. I mean, like, they're still playing their hearts out because they love winning games, and that's what it's all about. And I think that's what this whole Four Nations thing is all about. It's you want to have bragging rights. You want to be able to say, hey, I played on Team Canada and we ran it back, and obviously Canada's the best, and now they could say that. Now Brad Marchand can just chirp all he wants and say all the dumb shit that he wants, but he can do that now because they won. So
yeah, so I just wanted to start by chatting about that because it got me hooked, and that's why I'm drinking iced coffee at 10:08 p.m. on a Friday night, because
you'd be up all night.
Yeah,
but I stayed up late last night, and I'm like, I need to go, and like I said, I truly looked forward to this all week, and I was like, I'm not letting a little sleepiness hold me back, because we got some killer.
Yeah, we do. We have some really killer tunes, but really what Mikey's saying is just keep watching the Instagram, because he's gonna make like 15 videos tonight. It's going to be like, bands I loved growing up, part 11. Cartel. Chroma.
Well, did you see the story I shared, man? I just hate that I set up that Bands in Town thing or whatever.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
I don't even remember when I did it, but I archived all of the concerts.
We did it for year 2.
Yeah, but like truly, I archived every concert that I've been to since I started going to concerts. And now all of them are 21 years old, 22 years ago.
I get that too.
I was on a reminder that we're old.
Yeah, I used a website called Concert Archives, which is kind of
that's the one
thing. And and it's just every so often I get an email that's like, you saw Thursday in Hey Mercedes 24 years ago, and I'm like, oh my god, I did see that tour in Plainview.
Now, were you at that Cartel As Tall as Lions Receiving End the Siren show with me at the downtown?
Sure was.
Yeah, and I look back on it now, and I'm just like, dude, what a lineup. First of all, Lux Courageous, completely underrated band. And
shout out Pep.
Yeah, we were chatting with the junior varsity guys, and they totally agreed as well. They were like, yeah, I think they just kind of got thrown under the
stick.
Yeah, the short end of the stick coming from Long Island, where there was so much other stuff. But like, they were on Triple Crown Records. Like, they were a killer local band that I saw multiple times. I even saw them play a Looney Tunes in-store for their album. So like, if you get the opportunity to do an in-store at Looney Tunes, like, you're kind of a big deal.
Yeah,
so,
it's true.
What a lineup.
I don't remember what band it was, but some band played on the roof, and like
Stained.
Hundreds and hundreds of people showed up, and like they had to like call the police.
It was Stained.
Oh, that's great.
Yep.
So
like
next
Aaron
week,
Lewis Stained?
Yeah, oh yeah. So next week, just so you guys, I mean, if you don't want to tune in, I'm just going to give you the lay of the land. Next week, we're just doing 6 Stained songs.
No, we're not.
It's just all Thick's Mud Shovel. This is all Mud Shovel.
Been a while. All right, we got to actually start this episode, because at this rate, we're going like 2 hours, and no one's going to give a shit.
Dude, I made like a little schedule. I guess you didn't see.
Oh, he's got an itinerary.
You made an itinerary?
What
are we, a real podcast?
Well, if you look at our stories, and this is pre-iced coffee, so.
Oh my
god. So yeah, you're pretty accurate. I might be up all night just making Instagram reels and stories.
I bet you will. But you know what? That's good content, brother.
Amen. But yeah,
Oh, you have specific times when we're listening to all these.
Yeah, pretty good, huh?
Oh, we got 5 minutes until we got the first one, so we should start trying to talk about it then.
Yeah, but real quick before we do, I could have done it, but I didn't do it. There's no North Carolina band, but I did have to rep all my circuits just so that I'm still keeping a little North Carolina love in the live stream.
We don't know what Tom's retro pick is, so there could be a North Carolina band.
Oh, well, no. However, I will tell you that I have a North Carolina band for a retro pick in the future queued up specifically to show Mikey that it's not just pop punk. And that's all I'm going to say. So you got to tune in to see what that song is.
Isn't Between the Buried and Me from North Carolina?
They are.
Oh, it wasn't them.
Oh.
But
There's so many.
I didn't know that. I mean, I'm really not great at knowing where bands are from unless like they're from like Long Island, because I kind of keep track of that stuff. But like also I don't really know. And then like really the reality is like you could say that a band is from a place, but nowadays, with like the way albums are recorded and all that kind of stuff, like people live all over the place. Mostly, for the most part, if you say, "Oh, this band probably was in Nashville at some point," you'd probably be right, because that's what everybody does. Everybody just moves from all over the country to Nashville, and they just hang out and go to Preds games and write records, and eventually they're like, "Well, we're from Nashville." It's like, no, you're from Delaware.
Yeah, but Between the Buried and Me is from Raleigh. Like they're a straight Raleigh band. They have a coffee shop set up in Raleigh.
Oh shit, that's awesome.
Yeah, they're all Raleigh. So it's they're one of the bands that like contributes back to the scene, and it's really cool to see. So shout out to another North Carolina band.
It would be funny to like make Mikey listen to like a song off of Colors or something. Just like
Colors
have
Great
a
Mr.
retro pick that's like a 14-minute Between the Buried and Me song. Mikey just starts drinking poison.
Was it Viridian that had the not Viridian? What was the one that had the polka break?
Oh, God, I don't remember. That's so good. There's also some song, I think it's on Colors, where they break into like a weird like circus song, and they're just like la 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 la.
Yes.
La, 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 la. It's just like, what the fuck is happening?
It's Son of Nothing, that one.
Oh, is that was
that Son of Nothing? Yeah.
Yeah, and then there's like a weird deep voice that happens during the la-las where the guy's like, oh God. Between the Buried and Me is one of the greatest. You're absolutely right, homies from Dyne side.
So, Mikey, just to give you a reference, the album Colors, while they call it an album, it's technically one long continuous song.
Okay.
And there's just key changes, and that's how you know it's like a different song, but it's just panicking. One 90-minute song.
Just thinking about that is sending waves of anxiety through his whole body. He's like, I can't listen to a song for 35 minutes, bro.
The entire album is an hour and 4 minutes. It is just balls to the wall, the entire thing. So we're not here to talk about Between the Buried and Me. We have a schedule, and it's 10:15.
Let's do it.
So we got to start talking about our homies and keep flying.
We do.
That's what
and
we're
this was
with?
This was a pleasant surprise. I'm not going to lie. I had no idea that there was an album that they were sitting on, but, it makes sense. They're always cooking. But, yeah, John messaged me, and he was like, hey, like, we're getting ready to do this release, and we had a collaboration post back when Chuck was on, so years and years and years ago, when Chuck was on the Bar Down Breakdown. He's like, do you mind if you archive that just so that we can, like, get ready for the release? And I was like, wait, a new album? And he's like, yeah, like, album coming in April, but we got a new song dropping on Thursday. And I had no idea any of this was coming. So nice surprise. Love Keep Flying. since I moved to North Carolina, I'd say that they are the band that I 100% have seen the most. In, the 10 years I've been here, I've seen them probably 7 or 8 times already.
And it's interesting to note,
and never saw them on Long Island.
before we get into the single, this technically, even though Keep Flying's been around for a long time and they put out like a bunch of releases, this is actually their first full length. Everything else they've put out has been EPs.
Yeah.
So
it's
awesome.
Crazy to think about.
Pretty awesome. It's kind of crazy to think about that they've gained the notoriety and they've had the success they've had without actually releasing a full length record. So, I'm sure it's going to be a banger. And shout out to Dustin, who technically is not in the band anymore, but wrote quite a bit of this record from what I understand. And he's a hell of a songwriter, man. He is very prolific. So I'm very interested to hear how this is going to sound with his influence and
legend in the pop punk community.
Yeah, sure is, man, with the punches,
But yeah, it's exciting to hear kind of like the new wave of Keep Flying that's coming out. I got like some hints of the video and it was like very like Dune-esque, like very Mad Max style. So I'm stoked to see what they're cooking up, and I miss those guys. I was gonna say I've probably seen them as many times as Mikey has coming down to Orlando, and they always just pack every room out here in Orlando.
Sure do.
Yeah, so let's get to it. So this is Keep Flying, Stormchaser, off their upcoming album, which will be out on Smart Punk Records.
I got struck by lightning, a statistical anomaly. You may find it exciting, not something I wanna be, but I gotta be cognizant, calm and tolerant. I'm barely competent enough to explain the way that I exist. I didn't ask for this, actually yes I did, but I still have the nerve to complain. I've been chasing storms, praying for better weather. Get what you ask for, wishing it would be better. Cause I've been chasing storms, what do I chase them for? The lightning struck me, that makes me lucky.
The lighting is just so beautiful.
It is. Like whatever filter they put over this looks so good.
Praise my name, I will still complain, yeah. I've been chasing storms, praying for better weather. Get what you ask for, wishing it would be better. Cause I've been chasing storms, what do I chase them for? The lightning struck me, that makes me lucky.
Oh, that's pretty.
Chasing storms, praying for better weather. Get what you ask for, I wish it could be better. I've been chasing storms, what do I chase them for? The lightning struck me, that makes me lucky.
That's cool.
Yeah, really enjoyed that, man. That was a killer killer, kind of introduction to, what the record's gonna be like. Liked it quite a bit.
Now, I must say, the sax tone in this sounds so unique compared to any other Keep Flying songs. It kind of sounds more like a jazz cafe saxophone. And I digged it. Like, they were throughout the entire song, but not like as much like hit you in the face as other Keep Flying like sax and trombone songs usually are. And I thought it was a nice kind of just different version of what we're used to with Keep Flying.
Yeah, I think it was cool, like especially hearing like just the drum, bass, and sax part. It was like very like toned down, and it's not something that you normally hear from a Keep Flying song. Like I think they had it like maybe once or twice in some of the earlier songs that they had done. But it's so cool seeing that dynamic and being able to play it out, because the bass line, like that walk that they were doing, was so it matched that saxophone part so well that it really just did a lot of compliments to the song, and it shows like the musicianship that you don't typically think of when you think of, pop punk style bands.
Right. Now, I agree with that, and I think, one thing that John, kind of is really good at is knowing when to be more textural versus knowing when to be more, to try kind of treat it more as like a lead. I think there was a lot of textural stuff in this song. Like you could hear, the polyphony in his sax parts that he layered, and like it just really like is more like, it's almost like to me like how you'd use like a Hammond organ. Like you're kind of like you're underneath the whole band and you're kind of setting the chord up, and you've got the guitars on top of it, which is which is way different than like, when you think of bands that are kind of more punky that use horns, like Less Than Jake or something like that, where like their use of horns is much more like as a like almost as like Motion City uses a keyboard, right? Where it's just like it's leads and it's not, it's not like padded or textured. It's just like sort of like right there in your face to like hum along to, which is great for what it's worth. But knowing that you can kind of, John can take a back seat and kind of build layers, instead of just like having an in your face sax line, kind of like goes to show that he's a lot more musical than I think a lot of people give him credit for. He's really I don't mean to toot his horn, but I've known him for so long, and he's a really remarkable musician. Like even though he plays a sax, he's a lot more talented than I think a lot of people give him credit for, and I'm sure that he had a probably a strong hand in writing a lot of this stuff. So
yeah,
the little we talked to him, he talked about how proud he was of this record, and I think he was saying it's the first full length that he's been a part of in like almost 20 years, which might, as I'm thinking about it, it might have been that like first We Are the Union record that he's talking about, which came out in like 2007 or something. So awesome to know that, he's, being able to finally open up his, his songwriting heart and get it done. But great track. Loved it. Really interested to hear what the rest of the record is going to sound like. Awesome video. I love it. I mean, some of it looked like it was at Jones Beach in Long Island. I mean, like it's possible that it wasn't, but I mean, like I saw like a weird fence and I was like, that looks like a Jones Beach fence.
Does it have hepatitis?
No, shut up.
You got to do the hepatitis test.
Yeah.
No, we don't all have
hepatitis strips.
Yeah. Well, you know what? I'm telling Koyo that you think all Long Islanders have hepatitis.
No, just Jones Beach.
Well, they filmed that record. They filmed Mile a Minute at Jones Beach, I think.
Yeah. Hopefully it wasn't Gilgo. after all that.
Yeah, you die. You die. But yeah, sick song, man. My compliments to the chefs. Also, real quick before we move on, it looks like Henry is losing a bunch of weight, looking real slim daddy. Love that. You know, and he's still got that, you know, that voice that you just like, you can't get enough of. It's just so unique and interesting, and just fits Keep Flying so well. So bravo, boys.
And let's not, you know, discredit JJR's vocals too, right? Like the screams that were built in at the end of the song are what, like, when you eventually get to see that song live, those are the parts that get the people moving, right? Like, that's what JJR does best. Is he actually gets the crowd hyped up.
He had his own little like feature there. He had his own little like half of a verse. Did you notice that? Yeah, you know. And
now that
I love his voice.
It did slightly sound like Chuck vocally, so that might have been Chuck. So we would have to do some investigating to figure that out. But if that is JJR, the clean vocals, that's beautiful too.
He was singing it, you know, in the video. I mean, maybe he was just doing Chuck's parts, but you know, looked and sounded like him as far as I could tell. But yeah, you know, when does they give a release date for the record yet?
I think it was in April, right? Maybe I'm making that up. Maybe it's not been announced yet. Nope. Yep. April 24th.
April 24th.
Nice.
That is crazy.
So we're gonna have a couple more Keep Flying songs.
Yeah, right. I'm sure they're gonna probably put out a couple other singles as they approach that. So.
Yep, and they're playing. They're coming down. They're playing House of Blues here in Orlando. It looks like they're playing Kings in Raleigh. No Charlotte date. Mikey might be driving to go see Save Ferris and Keep Flying.
Save Ferris.
No, I can't do the Raleigh drive for a show. I'm sorry.
You don't want to.
Winston-Salem might be the furthest I can go for a show that's not in the Charlotte market. Like I even did that Greenville show when you guys were there, and that was too far, Justin. I'm sorry.
Yeah, it's like 3 hours.
It came out to be like, yeah, close to 3 hours, which is kind of what Raleigh is from here. So, but yeah, let's
come to Orlando. We'll go to House of Blues.
House of Blues is cool place.
Yeah, truly, like super pumped that they're playing at House of Blues. You know, they pretty much are playing Wills most times when they're coming through. So to get in House of Blues in front of a way bigger crowd, like, going to be huge for them.
Certainly will.
But yeah, let's keep this show rolling. We got Heart Attack Man, Spit, which I've heard great things. I think there was already another single that came out maybe a week or two ago from this upcoming release, and heard a lot of chatter about it. And I just think Heart Attack Man is a pretty underrated band in our scene. Like, I know that they're a bigger band by like DIY standards, but they put out just like great rock music. And I think Eric is one of the best personalities in the scene. He's just hysterical. Like no other way to say it. He's just a hysterical dude. And I'm excited to see what this video is, because they always have pretty funny and entertaining videos. So yeah, this is Heart Attack Man, Spit. So let's do it.
I feel like that crunchy guitar tone is just Heart Attack Man.
But that like reverb or whatever sounds like grunge.
Replace me with a hologram. No one will ever know the difference, much less even give a damn. Slow dance, holding hands in the afterglow.
Oh, this is pretty gross.
Make my exit and take my crave.
Yeah, just spit on everybody.
Spit on the entire time.
Something's gotta give. Kill yourself to live. Don't wait for fake intelligence. The world you're living in will soon enough be faded into memory. Spit in the face of humanity. Spit in the face of humanity.
That water looks so gross.
Yeah, just super dope. And am I right? Like, it's got like Soundgarden tones to it, right? Like,
Yeah. So this is like kind of the what you got to remember, right? So like all of these bands that like are kind of sort of tiptoeing the line of like grunge revival, right? I mean, like you got your Super Heavens, you got your, you know, your Heart Attack Mans, you got
Your basements.
yeah, your Basements, you got, you know, like those sort of bands that like just like crank up the gain and it's just crunchy as shit, you know, like, and then you know, that like classic lead guitar that's all warbly and
It's like a trem chorus.
yeah, it's like just like so much like weird tremolo on it, and you know, but you gotta love it because like that sort of like songwriting where, you know, like you have a riff and you just, and it kind of stays linear throughout the whole song, right? So like in this song you just kept getting that like junk and that kind of just like, even though the chorus is a little bit different, you get that throughout it, and like that's very much like sort of like a typical grunge thing, right? Where like you've just got like one chord progression that you just kind of hammer away at, and then you just build your song around it. So you know, it's not like your typical pop punk song that's like, oh, we're gonna do a Palm Muty verse, and then the chorus is gonna be big, and then we're gonna do the, you know, a clean bridge, and then we're gonna go back into our chorus. You know, it's just kind of like throughout, and I like that. I like that a lot. I mean, I know some people, you know, might kind of find that a little boring, but I like it. I think that, you know, if you write a good riff, just blast it away, you know, and I'm sure that the rest of the record is probably even noisier and, you know, even more crunchy. I mean, the bass tone was just like out of control. So I don't know how many big muffs, you know, they were using, but like you could hear like that distorted bass is just great. I really love that. I can't stress enough how like whenever I hear a song that has, you know, bass that's kind of like sort of flat, I'm always just like, man, just, you know, throw a little distortion on that bad boy. But love the song. Really, really stoked for the rest of the record. I was just listening to Freaks of Nature like 2 or 3 weeks ago, and that record is bonkers. So can't wait.
That was the last time we had Eric on the podcast, was when Freaks of Nature was coming out, or
yeah,
was out.
2 years ago. Yeah, 2 years ago. Some yeah, probably right about around then. But
jeez,
yeah,
I know, right?
feels like it was like yesterday that we had him on. But yeah, I thought it was fun, and like I'm guessing it was some kind of like reference to maybe the music industry or Spotify, and like how artists basically are spit in the face all the time with like they're expected to basically put out music for free, and just spit in their face.
I love that line, like kill yourself to live, like kind of like that, like work yourself to the bone in order to kind of like, you know, make ends meet, or kind of like live out what you actually want to do.
Yep.
Sure, man. You know, Ryland said it best. Said you would do this for free, right? That's where they got you wrong.
And that's an Origami Angel reference, right?
Sure is.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
So.
But I mean, you know, the reality is, you know, and you know, unfortunately, unless you're, you know, a super big band where, you know, you're pulling a salary, I mean, you know, every tour is, you know, it's make or break, you know, and you know, and like you think, like, you know, you look at a band like Heart Attack Man. I mean, you know, they were on Triple Crown. They put out, you know, I think 2 or 3 releases on Triple Crown, and Triple Crown, you know, as far as well, maybe I'm thinking more of like the way it was in the 2000s, you know, when they were a little bit bigger, but you know, they're still, as far as independent labels go, they're like, you know, kind of one of the premier. And you know, when they put out Freaks of Nature, you know, they ended up self-releasing it. And you know, sometimes that's kind of the best thing to break the mold. You know, more and more artists are doing that. They're either self-releasing stuff, or they're starting up their own imprints, or you know, trying to put their music back in their hands, you know, because unfortunately, you know, I mean, we could talk about this until we're blue in the face, but you know, back in the 2000s, you know, a lot of predatory record labels took advantage of a lot of bands, and a lot of bands still don't own their
music
catalog, you know, so that's why you get, you know, Thrice re-recording The Artist in the Ambulance, you know, because now that re-recording they own. And I mean, it's way sicker than the original one, but you know, now they finally have the rights to their music back, you know. So you know,
shout out Taylor Swift for starting that trend. Or I think it might have been In Living Color would have been one of the first ones to do it too.
Yeah, Living Color. Yeah, it did. I mean, but you know, for what it's worth, you know, again, you don't realize when you're, you know, in your 20s, and you know, a record label puts a, you know, a fat contract in front of you, and you think, oh my God, I'm gonna get to tour all over the world, and I'm gonna get to do what I love. And then like you read the fine print of the contract, and you're like, oh, I don't own my music. That is cool. But you know, let this be a lesson to you fucking record labels. Don't do that shit.
And I could have just totally made up that, and that song has nothing to do with the music industry, but
it's just
that's the vibe I was getting.
Yeah, great. Just a weird thing. He just likes getting spit on.
That would actually be more on brand for Heart Attack Man, honestly, now that I think about it.
Yeah.
But yeah, Justin, we can swing it over to your picks for this week. Former guest of Bar Down Breakdown, and this must have been at least like 3 or 4 years ago. I don't know if Tom did that episode, or if both of you did it, or it was you.
2023, man.
Jeez. So yeah,
2023. We had Adam from the band Orthodox on. They were about to go on tour with Gideon, and they just put a new one out this week with Andrew from Comeback Kid as a guest feature on the song. Orthodox is a I don't know, they're just fucking metal, dude. Like I can't you can't really put a genre on it, and it's that's why the only part of the song I actually listened to was the vocal intro track, because I had to put it on the post for today, because I thought it was just so perfect about just talking 45 minutes to somebody about music, for them to be like, oh, is that heavy metal? Nah, man, that's fucking deathcore, metalcore, talking about all the other shit. But they're fucking metal, man. Andrew with Comeback Kid, like, they're doing great things right now. They have the Wake the Dead tour that's going on. I believe Orthodox is on a couple of those shows too. So go catch them. I listened to the episode with Orthodox. If you love the old deathcore scene, I talked with him ad nauseum about, you know, going to shows with like Whitechapel when they were up and coming, and like the entire Nashville deathcore scene in general. So I'm really excited to listen to this song. This is we don't typically go very heavy on these episodes. I think the last really heavy one we had was probably Church Tongue.
And fucking Church Tongue rules.
Go check out the new Church Tongue album that came out. It's all out right now.
Oh, so they got a fucking track with the dude from Death Heaven on it.
Yeah. And it's a great track. That was also on my release radar for this week.
Good shit.
But yeah, I'm excited to listen to this one. I believe this one is I keep getting the name of this song wrong all the time. But
Commit to Consequence.
Commit to Consequence. I was like, Commitment to Consequences. I kept thinking like, yeah, it's Commit to Consequence featuring Andrew from Comeback Kid, who just put out the Wake the Dead re-release with him doing vocals on it. So excited to check this track out from Orthodox, and shout out to Adam and the episode that we had him on.
And shout out to Adam, because he rocks a black Brooklyn New York Islanders jersey, but it's like the blank one, so it doesn't have the New York Islanders logo on it or any of the branding. It's just the black Brooklyn, but it's clearly the Islanders jersey, and he rocks that on stage every once in a while. So shout out to Adam, even though he's a Preds fan.
He's just a hockey fan in general, man.
Amen. Love that. But yeah, let's check this one out.
You know you pick a good song when Tom's vibing the entire time.
Dude, I mean, like, so first of all, give me that snare drum sound. I'll listen to it like while I go to bed. That just popped, dude. That was, I don't know, that's probably like a confluence of like 8 different snare drums just fucking ripping. But I mean, dude, I'm a hardcore guy, but like I kind of missed the boat on deathcore until Exhibition of Prowess by KKTX came out, and I just like, okay, this is fucking excellent. And like now I'm kind of like sort of getting into it a little. I haven't gone back yet, but I'm kind of like living in the now. But I just love it. I mean, it's just so like, it's just so ignorant. I mean, that breakdown with the harmonics and just like, it's just like if you were there, if you were at like that show when that sound was happening, like you couldn't not annihilate people. Like you just couldn't. So, I mean, if we're trying to annihilate people, this is the soundtrack to do that.
I always want to ask myself too, like which came first in the writing process, the breakdown riff or the pinch harmonic? Like it's that pinch harmonic is just so unique, like
Mm-hmm.
and it's just cool. Like I'd fucking dude, Tom, you got to get into deathcore. The songs that they write with like the harmonic minor just like scale is just, it's just so mean, and it's just the way that it kind of just builds out. Like it's just so fucking cool. Like Orthodox has just been putting out great fucking music. Of course they're on Century Media, which has a history of some of the heaviest fucking bands you could ever listen to. But yeah, like just talking to Adam about just growing up in the deathcore scene, and funny enough, when I got my tattoo down in Cape Coral, I was chatting with Cody, who's also a huge deathcore fan, and he was going up to catch that Gideon Orthodox show that was in Tampa at the time. So it's just really cool. Like it's such a cool community just to like be a part of and like listen to. And Orthodox is fucking killing it, man. Like if they're anywhere near you and you like any type of heavy music, go check them out, go support them, because every time they come through, they rip, dude.
All right, Mikey, you got 60 seconds to tell us what you thought about that.
Well, I just love the fact that Adam is a realtor, and like I could picture him going to like a showing and listening to like demos of that in his car, because he talked about how that's how he usually listens to his demos in his car. Like, and obviously you have to listen to that at like full blast, and just picturing him like dressed all nice in a suit and tie and like then rocking out like that. Just, I couldn't stop thinking about that.
Yeah, man. From breakdowns to showing off, wraparound front porches.
Hey,
yes.
man.
But either way, I thought it was super cool. There was a lot of like the screechy guitars in the breakdowns, which was cool. And I'm obviously not a drummer, but one thing that stood out to me throughout that entire song was exactly what you mentioned. Like that snare tone just sounded so unique and cool and like really hit you in the face throughout the whole song. And I had a comment like, you're badass when you're rocking gloves as a drummer, right? Like no drummer in a pop punk band can do that, but like you got to be just totally laying it down to be able to pull off the glove look.
Yeah, that's very true. And I mean, so, and it's funny, that, we were talking, I wasn't on the episode when you guys did Kubrick's Stare, but like, so I feel like, you know, they're not a deathcore band. I feel like Tom is in the like forefront of making these sounds on a guitar that like a lot of other metal bands aren't doing. Like there are some bands that are starting to do it, like Vane FM, you know, is one of those bands that kind of like is experimenting with some weird sounds and stuff. But Stray's been doing that since like Villains. I mean, you know, like Tom has been doing fucking strange shit. But you know, it's kind of one of Stray's like kind of
defining characteristics,
right? And you know, I think that being able to kind of like experiment with like gnarlier and gnarlier sounds and just making like, you know, just the most ignorant shit is kind of what, you know, you got to do in 2025 to stand out, because there are so many heavy bands in all the different genres, you know, that, you know, you've got to kind of be a little bit more verbose to stand out, right? So I hear this Orthodox song and I just think to myself, like, all right, you know, like there's a breakdown, but the breakdown wasn't just chugging. I mean, you know, you've got this crazy pinch harmonic, and then after that, you know, you've got that little drum and bass part that leads into that like that kind of triplet bounce feel part, you know? So it's like, if you can write great music, whether or not you're writing a pop punk song, an emo song, or a metal song, if you can write great music, you're gonna go places. And you know, that's kind of what I always thought about Orthodox. You know, even when we had them on the pod back in the day, and I was listening to, you know, their stuff from I think that it was like in 2022 that last release, but whatever it was.
Yeah, Learning to Dissolve.
Yeah, great band, great songwriting. And I mean, if you don't like that kind of music, I get it, but like you have to appreciate that it wasn't cookie cutter.
Yep. We like to call it the Gojira whale noises.
Yeah.
Dude, I think that's my biggest kind of thing to say negative about like heavier music, is that sometimes at times it all does kind of sound the same. Like, all right, here's coming the breakdown. All right, yep. But like the two bands that you mentioned, Orthodox and Straight from the Path, I appreciate how different that sounds than most of the other hardcore,
right,
and like death metal or whatever you guys are calling it that I've heard, you know, obviously come across with the podcast. And I even said in our group chat, like Tom was like, I wonder what you thought of that Stray song. And I was like, honestly, that was probably like my favorite hardcore song that I've listened to in a very long time, because there was like a bounce to it. There was like some like, it almost felt like hip hop vibes going throughout the song.
Yeah.
And even
that's Drew York, baby.
Made me think of like Limp Bizkit at times. I was like, this is kind of really cool. And
I bet you if you said that to him, he would like wrap his arms around you and give you a big old hug and be like, yeah, that's what I'm going for.
And it's so funny, like, and we'll probably talk about this a lot, you know, with another band that I chose later on in the show, but the influence of nu metal into modern metalcore, deathcore, hardcore is so synonymous, where like you didn't hear, like, especially like in the 2000s, I feel like there was such a separation between nu metal and like metalcore and deathcore and hardcore. Whereas like now it's almost synonymous. And it's funny enough, like I think Stray and a couple of other bands were probably one of the first ones in like the late 2000s to really start incorporating a lot of these nu metal riffs that you didn't typically hear. And that's really what kind of like set them like astray from everything. And yeah, like you heard a lot of nu metal riffs and like grindcore with like heavy, low, like they had like a lot of these like influences, but there was such a niche part of the metal scene. Whereas like bands like Unearth, As They Lay Dying, like you didn't hear that style. And then it was just like we said, this cookie cutter, you know, we're going to do a verse and we're going to do a breakdown, and we're going to do another verse and another breakdown, and then we're going to hit a crash 3 times, and on the, you know, the last beat is going to go into a fucking breakdown. And now we're getting these dynamic noises and things that we heard in the late 90s coming back, and I think it just really puts a different spin on metal in general, which
I think some of those 2000 bands, I think there was like such a stigma about new metal then. I think that like artists were specifically trying to like avoid it because they didn't want to get characterized as like a new metal band. But now you've got all these bands that are using some of the like archetypal new metal riffs, and I mean like even like a band that's humongous like Knocked Loose. I mean like they have some new metal influence in what they do.
Huge fucking Korn fans,
right? And Code Orange, right? Talk about Code Orange. I mean, literally, I'm going to get crucified for this, but honestly, I think Code Orange is the song they put out with Billy Corgan is fucking phenomenal, And like, if you heard that in 1996, you'd be like, oh yeah, this like is totally like a Seether song, or maybe not Seether, but like it's a new metal song, right? But
yeah,
I think that today more artists are being realistic with what their influences actually are. I'm sure all of those 2000 bands probably were influenced by Korn and were influenced by even like some of the more like industrial metal stuff like Cold Chamber and like and that kind of stuff. But like they
toured with them on Sounds of the Underground. They toured with Mudvayne. They toured with all these bands that were in that new metal genre.
Right. But they were just so like scared for someone to be like, oh, you're kind of a new metal band, like you look at like I love them now, but like I use it as an example. The first two Devil Wears Prada records, I mean, like they're like metalcore copy pasta. It's just like it's just like, all right, Jeremy's gonna sing something. Now we're getting a breakdown. Jeremy's singing again. Now we're getting a breakdown. Oh, Jeremy's singing again. Oh, cool. So it's just like, and now, their music, their last record is way more melodic, way more,
experimental
and available, so like it can bridge more genres. And I think that's the big thing with heavy music is how many ears can you get it in? Like, can you get it into? Like, can you dig with the metalcore crowd? Can you dig with the new metal crowd? Can you dig with the melodic hardcore crowd? Can you do all of that? And you got bands like Counterparts that do all that touch all those little, little pain points. And, now they're humongous, so you just got to realize that you're right what you're right, and you don't have to fit into a mold, like our emo, we don't, emo can be whatever we want it to be, Reddit. Like, it doesn't have to just be Rites of Spring, right? And it's the same thing with metalcore. It doesn't just have to be, oh, well, we wrote a Zayo record. Like, yeah, fucking Zayo rips, but like, there's way more out there. So embrace it. That's all I'm saying.
And that's gonna segue us like right into our next band. Coming from Miami, Florida, Dyne side. I got Tom into Dyne side a couple weeks ago just by like throwing it in the group chat. I was like, hey, they got a new release coming out. Like, check out some of their stuff.
Yeah.
They just released Big Brother on Tuesday. It is Ed's birthday today, so happy birthday to Ed because it's not midnight yet. But Out of Time played with these guys a few times. We played with them down in Miami. We've played with them in Tampa. And every time I see them, it's just a different experience. And they bring so much energy to every live show. And literally in their discography, they have something for everybody. So they don't fit a mold. Like, I can't give them a specific genre other than they fucking rock, man. Like, seriously. But this is their new one called Big Brother. It's funny because I was chatting with them all week about it. I'm like, I can't listen to it. It's going to be on here. We're going to do a blind react to it. So I'm really excited to finally listen to it. Their last release, Perma, was phenomenal. It was just a collection of amazing songs. And they're going to be hitting the road and hitting it pretty hard with this next release. So, yeah, I just want to shut up and just start listening to Big Brother because this has been on my radar for a few weeks now.
And this is like completely blind reaction for me because I have not heard any of their music before. So, and I love that, right? Like that's what happened with like Roses and some of the other bands already that Rosary was another one, like literally had never heard of them.
Well, I think I pitched Dyne to you guys as like an at the drive-in, like Glassjaw style band, and even that doesn't even touch the musical influences that these guys have.
You guys. I don't know. I think you probably will, Justin. This might be a little weird one for you, Mikey. Remember Icarus the Owl?
Yeah,
I get big time Icarus the Owl vibes from them. That kind of like mathy, like leady kind of stuff. I'm super stoked to hear this. So
all right, let's do it.
Can't you see where we are? It's you and me that get real far. Run from me, but not far. Will you sit in stone for me? There's no
right off the bat, you can see the BT Bam influence.
So let's share this.
I'm getting like Freddie Mercury vibes though.
Foxy Shazam.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Foxy Shazam. Yeah.
Will you fight me or sit
And that looks like Gabe Lugo.
stone? Sit in stone. You wanna fight me? Sit in stone.
Okay.
You wanna fight me? Sit in stone. You wanna fight me? Sit in stone.
How did Out of Time play with this band?
You wanna fight me?
Multi-genre, baby.
Sit in stone. So bring up as this isn't a test. I feel, no, I don't feel the things you feel. 'Cause there's no way that we do best. I feel, it's the beginning of the end. So bring up as this isn't a test. I feel, no, I don't feel the things you feel. 'Cause there's no way that we do best. I feel,
Now, is this only a two-piece?
beginning of the end.
Yeah.
Fight me!
They have like a live band that plays with them. Like a drum and bassist.
Fight me! Fight me! We can be you and me. We all together. We can be you and me. We are forever. Can't you see what I be?
Reminds me of like Enrique Iglesias.
I am nothing.
Just the ebb and flow of the energy of this song.
Don't fight me. We can be. We are forever. We are forever. We are forever. You wanna fight?
That's
What
so
a
good,
roller
man.
coaster, man.
Yeah,
That
seriously.
ride took me. That
Seriously.
song took me on a ride, man.
Woo. The chorus, if you would call it that, I don't know that you necessarily say that the song has a chorus. It's more like, section A, section B, section C, section D. But man, that like chorus with the heavy guitars was just like screaming Deftones at me, just like that kind of like rhythmic, like just very like rhythmic metal, just sort of like you could, I love that, man. I love when I can groove to something. But yeah, like I definitely, not that they're anything like Foxy Shazam, but his vocal style kind of reminds me of that. But definitely very like, you kind of got that drum and bass vibe a little bit. Mm-hmm. You get that kind of like, oh man, what would you call that? That like kind of like like that kind of like pop metal sort of like, it's very, very cool. And then the that like kind of instrumental section where it got a little bit more it got a little bit more diatonic and was just like kind of chords under his voice and stuff. It's just I love that kind of stuff where you sort of step out of your boundaries. And again, going back to talking about genres, right? I mean, like, traverse a bunch, do a bunch, make it so that when somebody listens to you, they can't say what you are.
Yeah.
They and that's a good thing, because if somebody could say, oh, Dyne, man, they're just, I don't know, they're just fucking Dyne, man. They're just like doing their own thing. I mean, like, that's such a, like, that's so complimentary, where when you can't say, like, it's, pop punk happens all the time. It's like, oh, you sound like the starting line. And it's like, oh, that's cool. But like, I thought we kind of were sounding like us. And it's like,
It's so funny because I think like when you talk to them, they would say like, we're like, I think they even put it in their bio, like we're alternative post-hardcore and then some.
right.
And it's like so cool. Like when you go through like just even like Perma in and of itself, their last release,
Yeah.
You have such dynamics from everything from like Arthur's First to Space Cadet to like Dead Inside.
It's really good.
And they're all like so different, but you can but like the minute you listen to it, like if you know the band, you're like, I'm listening to Dyne Side. If you don't know the band, you're trying to figure out who the fuck they are.
Yeah.
Well, that was me. I was like, literally, I don't know if this is Freddie Mercury, like Enrique Iglesias. Like, it was literally, the clean vocals were just putting me on, like I said, a roller coaster, trying to pinpoint. And I don't think I did a great job of it, but in the moment, I was like so entertained because the song was just going in so many different directions. And then like when it started getting heavy, I was like, oh my God, like what, was not expecting that.
That's what musicians want to hear. Like musicians, like a lot of them like don't really give a shit about what genre you think they are. But what they do give a shit about is that the music they wrote entertained you, right? Because that's why you do this. You do this because you want to entertain people, and you want people to enjoy the fruits of your labor. And your reaction to this is like probably exactly what they would love to hear. Maybe not like that he sounds like Enrique Iglesias. He'd probably kind of like be like, all right, but like,
you probably love it though.
But he probably would be like, hey man, that's awesome that like you dug that song and it kept your attention and you recognized that like we're not, we're not like a box of, like butter cookies, right? We're doing some fancy shit. So I think it's great. I would really, love to hear where this sits in And now we can end the episode. I think. But yeah, man, killer track. Thanks for putting me onto them. And what I'd really love to hear what that's going to be a bigger part of.
Yeah.
But I do want to also shout out, like, that was more like a visualizer is what the band was calling it on YouTube. And I think that is so important that, like, you put out something to go with some releases, right? Like, granted, it was kind of like, DIY, right? Which is perfect, I think. Like, I'm sure it wasn't like something that really broke the bank, but yet was something to look at other than just like a single still art, right?
I don't know. Those suits look pretty good to break the bank, though.
But I do think bands need to just do that, right? And if you're able to do something like that, maybe even on your iPhone, like,
right,
do it.
Well, going back to what we talked about last episode, when we listened to Guilt by the Junior Varsity, we were talking about how impactful a really, really good, really engaging and colorful lyric video can be, right? And again, sometimes that's $8 Goodwill.
That's a deal.
Well,
that's the deal right there.
You made it look hulking, brother. You did.
In this economy, you got to go with it.
It's got to go with it. But yeah, like whatever you could do to just to not have like a still image on a screen, especially now when attention spans are like, they're TikTok attention spans. It's you're lucky if someone gives you 15 seconds before they're like, gotta go to the next one. So if you could do something engaging, and I think, funny enough, as the TikTok age starts to get bigger and better. I use this as a quick example and then we can move on. But that band South Arcade, who I'm sure you guys have heard of. Mm-hmm. Have you heard of them? No. Okay. No,
so we'll go with it.
So it's this band South Arcade. They're like on TikTok and they have this like one song that they constantly play on TikTok. And it's one song and it's like every video is this one song. And it makes me mad because I'm like, I want to like post on their videos like, do you guys have another fucking song? But like that song is like, even though I'm not like, I wouldn't consider myself a South Arcade fan, I can sing it because I've heard it so many times. So I think more and more bands are going to start to do things where like they're creating songs that like have really big, bold intros because it's like, it's your first 20 seconds to capture an audience. And like, if you can really pack a punch within that first 20 seconds, someone might hang on with you for a whole song. Yep. But, if you're kind of like doing some wimpy, weird shit, someone's just going to hit the next button. So I think in today's world.
Well, it does show the evolution, right? Because I'm sure in the early 2000s, bands were thinking like, how do we hold a fan's attention for an album, right?
So it's all about albums and records.
Like, and now it's like, how do we hold a fan's attention for a song? Like, how can we get them to listen to a full song? Yep. And I think you have to have, like we just heard, an entertaining song that goes in a million different directions, has all these different parts that you can snip 30 seconds of and like piece it together on social media platforms and get those streams still. Like, I think we're watching music kind of evolve because of an app, right? Because of what that app can do for musicians. This, and you're like,
say it. I know you're going to say it.
I know you're going to.
25,000 streams all over.
But truly, like, if that's not proof of what TikTok can do for some bands, dude, that song literally has more streams than their hit single off of their last album that came out over a year ago.
That's it, man.
And that is in 1 week.
Yeah, I mean, and again, the reality is, right? You've got to know how to market yourself. And back in the 2000s, the way that you got signed was you toured enough and you had maybe a good EPK if a label cared about that, which, you know, it was really just about how much money can you make me. But nowadays, everybody, you know, you look at streams, you look at, you know, how good are you at capturing this online audience, right? Because ultimately, if they like you online, they'll probably go see you live.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I mean, like, you hope that, right? But even though, you know, Spotify pays, I don't know, cents, you know, fractions of cents, you know, so you're not really making money off of your streaming platforms. But what you are doing is you're giving people a chance to, like, experience you and then make their own decision as to whether or not they want to follow you. And 20 years ago, that was such a hard thing to do because you had to buy an album. You had to buy a CD. You know, like, maybe there was mp3.com and maybe there was, you know, little things here and there. But, like, you know, you had to go buy From Under the Cork Tree, right? You had to buy it. And maybe you saw the video for Sugar We're Going Down and you're like, oh, this is a killer single. And I'm sure most people bought From Under the Cork Tree and was like, wow, this is a great record. But, like, the people that just wanted Sugar We're Going Down probably bought that record, spent their $20 at FYE or Sam Goody or whatever, and was like, fuck, I spent $20, you know? But at least now you can listen to music without having to, you know, pay for it. I mean, you know, other than your $9.99 a month, but you can listen to music and then you can say, I like them, I don't like them. And, you know, it's no sweat off your back, right? So it opens it up to a lot more people. And I think TikTok is a great way to open it up to even more people. Because, again, if you have, like, a really catchy chorus or a really great hook, Good Terms. The first thing I ever heard from Good Terms was the breakdown and cough.
Oh yeah, they put so much content out for that breakdown.
That's the first thing I heard, and I was like, "Ooh, that's a cool breakdown." Do they have a lot of breakdowns? And then, you know, I went and listened to the whole record, and now it's like one of my favorite records. But that breakdown, that 15 seconds of content, sold me. And if you can sell me on 15 seconds, you could definitely sell someone who's 18 years old on 15 seconds too, right? Yep. So it's a wonderful platform. It's a great thing. And, you know, more people hopefully will embrace it. And, you know, if it gets taken away again, you know, I can sell my phone that has TikTok on it for like $2,000.
Yeah.
It's a win-win situation.
But yeah, let's keep this show rolling. Killer track though. Good, good recommendation.
I get to talk now, right?
Not yet.
Oh fuck.
No, yeah, right. No, yeah. Sorry, we did. Yeah, you do get to talk.
It's 2 picks.
Yeah,
these are your 2 picks. Yep.
These are my 2 picks. Here's the first one. So unless you're, like, living under a rock or something, you probably know who Movements are, right? So they're from California, bunch of dudes, you know, just like straight chilling. Wrote a bunch of really great records. A lot of people were giving Ruckus shit, which was the last record they put out. I don't really get it. I don't get the movement.
I don't understand it.
I think that Ruckus is a fantastic record. Mm-hmm. I thought that No Good to Give was a fantastic record.
No Good to Give was an amazing record.
Right. And yeah, I get it. You know, Feel Something had Daylily on it, right? And, you know, everybody's sad emo heart loves that song. But just the ship has sailed. You're not going to get that Movements anymore because that's not who they are.
Cloud Summer's over.
Right, exactly. Right. So you've got to realize that they're a different band than they were 6 or 7 years ago. Right. So understanding that, I'm super stoked to hear this track because I want to see what their songwriting has done since Ruckus. So let's do it, man. Let's check it out.
All right. Sorry.
No, lyric video for this one.
Yeah, lyric video for this one. In more of the singy parts of the songs, I can't help but think that that's like an REM influence.
You get Michael Stipe vibes. Okay.
Yeah.
Do yourself a favor. I'm going to give you some homework. Listen to Automatic for the People. by REM. That's one of their best records. Just go listen to it because you're going to be up until 5 a.m. because you drank like 6 gallons of coffee. So you might as well do something. But I'm glad we did that track. And to be honest with you, I'm kind of glad that I'm a little bit more critical of it than I was expecting, because I feel like we aren't always critical on here. And I think it's human to be critical, you know?
Now,
as a single, well, go ahead. I'm sorry.
But for you, like, yes, I understand where you're coming from because of your love for Ruckus and the like you said, the dancey kind of like mix between emo and alternative and like pop music that they were kind of heading in.
Right.
However, for someone that did fall in love with the band because of Feel Something,
right?
Like, I literally remember never even hearing of this band and sitting at the last Warped Tour in front of the 2 main stages, and they came on early in the day and blew me away. And it was all, they were playing all of the stuff from Feel Something.
Right.
So, like, for some of those OG fans, hearing some of that, like, Feel Something vibes was refreshing.
Yeah. It's gonna.
And I'm not saying that, like, I wrote Ruckus off because I thought that was a great album as well.
Right.
But, like, some of those highs that he gets, like, in the screamy parts, are what a lot of people loved about Movements and why they fell in love with Movements.
Sure.
So it was kind of refreshing for me to hear that.
It could be a strategic thing, like the rest of the record when it comes out, whenever it comes out, might be a little different from that track, but they might have just figured like, hey, let's put this out as the first single because it kind of harkens back to
Feel Something.
To Feel Something, and hopefully that'll kind of capture people's attention. That the first single that you release is always it's always such a tough thing because you don't you want to appeal to your fans, but you also want to show the world that you're evolving, right? So it's like, what do you do? Do you the one thing you don't do is what Japanese Breakfast did, because that makes Mikey physically want to throw up. So, but sometimes you I'm trying to think, I don't have it in front of me. I wish I did, but some of the great records that came out in the mid 2000s and what their first singles were, and how they kind of prepared you for a record or maybe threw you off, so it's going to be interesting to see what the rest of what surrounds that single is going to be like. But, if they go back to a more of a, an Outgrown Things or Feel Something sort of vibe, might be good for them. Might be a good thing.
What's crazy is that this year is 10 years since Movements started.
Oh, wow.
So we're in the 10-year anniversary of Movements right now.
Dang.
Where Feel Something, came out in 2017, but they were putting out some of their early demo tracks in 2015 when they were really kind of starting out. And I remember they were very much it's crazy when you think about it, because they were very kind of post emo spoken word when they first came out, and it was a lot more spoken word involved in it. And as somebody who I absolutely loved Nothing Left to Give, I thought it was one of the best albums that they had come out with at the time. Same thing with Ruckus. I loved Ruckus. I thought it was a good kind of momentum forward for them. It was different, but it still had, it still brought my serotonin levels down. It was still just a very sad album.
Yeah.
And this album kind of is almost like a mix of Feel Something and Nothing Left to Give.
Yeah.
It's almost like this is the album, and I could be wrong just based off of this single, but it sounds like this is the direct sequel to Feel Something. Very much like when we were having the conversation about Fireworks, and we were talking about the last Fireworks album is almost like a direct sequel to Gospel.
Higher Lonely Power you're talking about?
Higher Lonely Power, yeah.
Higher Lonely Power was a wacky record. Great record.
Yeah.
Wacky record.
It was almost like a direct sequel to Gospel, and kind of the tone and just the what they were singing about. So I almost feel like this could be a direct sequel to Feel Something, but also just like this weird love child between, nothing left to give and Feel Something. So I'm excited.
Yeah, I like that take, man. That's a very interesting take. It's again, I'm sure that like all bands do. I mean, I'm sure that they heard the positivity, but they probably internalized the negativity. So I'm sure that when they're writing whatever this collection of songs turns out to be, they were probably like, okay, what do we do? Do we keep exploring this, what we're doing, or do we try to pull it back and give some of the fans that have been, with us since 2015, kind of what they want, So it'll be interesting again. I know I kind of am a broken record when I say this, but it'll be interesting to see where this song fits in the collection of other songs for whenever this record comes out. But I mean, I liked it. I wouldn't say it was my favorite song. But the energy of it was great. But just makes you sad because he just loves being sad.
But Tom, I'm actually really excited for this one.
Oh yeah,
song, because I have no idea who Park is. I have literally no idea. So,
well, ladies
fill me
and gentlemen,
in on a little backstory on.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to. I was gonna go buy like a big cardboard sign and just hold it up, and it was just gonna say like Tom's Retro Extravaganza 2025, but I didn't have enough glitter to make it as glittery as I wanted. But so every so often, we came to the conclusion that there's so much good music that came out in the 2000s, some of which like kind of flew under the radar. And I think this band is one of the bands that kind of flew under the radar. So Parker from Illinois, they were around for a good part of the early to mid 2000s. They went on a hiatus. They actually came back with an EP in the past maybe 5 or 6 years called Jacob the Rabbit that was really good. But so
10 years ago, buddy.
10 years? Was it that long ago?
10 years ago, dude. Wow. Yeah, that was 2014.
Wow. I love Park. Park put out 3 great full-length records. They put out No Signal. They put out Building a Better. And then this, which is their sophomore record called It Won't Snow Where You're Going. The themes of the record are very like suicide focused. And, they've had to kind of talk ad nauseum about how this record doesn't promote suicide. It doesn't promote, that sort of thing. But it's just sort of like, it's not a concept album, but conceptually it's about having these, really kind of intense thoughts. And they kind of ran with it thematically. So, would you call them an emo band? Would you call them a post-hardcore band? I don't really know. As we listen to this track, you can kind of make your own conclusion about them. But they were really one of those bands that you probably never saw headline a show, but you might have caught them as like the second band on a 4 or 5 band bill. They were on Lobster Records, and Lobster Records, they put out the first Yellow Card record, which, in my opinion, is way better than Ocean Avenue. Crucify me, I don't really care. But there are some other really good bands that were on Lobster. Over It was another really, really good pop punk band that was on Lobster. But Lobster, did some good things for them. They were a good independent label, at the time. But so this song is called Gasoline Kisses for Everyone. It's the first song on the record, and it really, well, listen to it.
Now, before we get into it, actually, you know what? I'll ask after.
Let's get into it.
Because I don't want to have any kind of like...
Because I was going to say, like, this is like for fans of, but I don't want to even say
That's what I was going to ask. I was like, what kind of circles did they run in? But I actually don't want to know. I want to just go...
No, I'll tell you after. I'll tell you what I think after.
Yeah.
So you're familiar with this track, Justin?
I'm familiar with their earlier stuff. I'm trying to remember what the like Building a Better would probably be like one of the first things I've heard from them.
Yeah, Building a Better was their third record. And I almost picked the song off of Building a Better, but I kind of felt like this is a little bit more indicative of like where they sat in like the circles. So
Okay. So let me get it all set and ready to go. So no video, huh?
Nah, they didn't have a video for this one.
You gotta get a good visualizer for them.
Now, right off the bat, like the drums sound like from under the cork tree. Like the Sugar We're Going Down.
Very Thursday.
I'd be lying if I said I don't enjoy this. Waking up soaked in sweat, wondering
The guitars remind me of like Armor for Sleep.
the sinking sand
Yeah.
around me dips to reach that perfect place.
Even vocally, too, a little bit.
Before caught living in a life you missed the reason had to leave. Held you back and couldn't see. Missed the reason had to leave.
Chorus rip, man.
Coming on, I love the sound of your voice breaking off, so I sing along until you're gone. I think we're out of breath as we pick this song. I think I'd be lying if I said I didn't miss this. Slipping off the edge of the bed, I know I can kiss you better.
This just sounds very early 2000s, right? Like,
Yeah.
if you played this to me,
Hey.
yeah, like if you played this for me now, and we're like, when would this band have been around? I would be able to pinpoint that. Like, there's no way that this would be a band in 2025.
Coming on, I love the sound of your voice breaking off, so I sing along until you're gone. I think we're out of breath as we pick this song. One more try, one more good night, one more
Kind of like transit sounding right there.
Yeah, it's that like that clean bridge, you know?
This feeling never catches up. Burnt red are the arms of a sunburnt boy you love. I know what you're all about now. I know where the engine runs out. I know what you're all about now. I know where
Like
the
this could be like a
engine
Take It Back
runs
Sunday
out.
part.
So I'll sing along until you're gone. I think you'll sing along.
He gets really mad at the end of this song.
You're busy fucking everyone. You're busy fucking everyone. You're busy fucking everyone. You're busy fucking everyone.
Great lead too.
This is a Taste of Chaos band.
Yeah, absolutely a Taste of Chaos band. I mean, so here's the like the deal with Park, right? So you kind of like you nailed it. You know, Thursday, Armor for Sleep. That's kind of like where, you know, if you were to, you know, drop this record in a bin, you know, that had other bands from the 2000s that were doing this whole thing, you'd see that. You'd see your Thursdays, your Taking Back Sundays, your Armor for Sleeps. You'd see the Used, you know, like it's kind of in that vein where it's not quite like a pop punk deal, not quite post-hardcore, but it just sort of teeter-totters on the line.
Yeah.
And it's a really good, like, this song is a great representation of what the rest of that record is about. And like what the rest of the record really sounds like. You know, so I'm going to just sit back and hear and kind of get your insights on it, you know? So I want to know what you guys thought about it, because that's really the whole point of me doing this segment, is that I want to hear what you guys think about it.
So I was going to say, originally when I was listening to like Building a Better, I think Building a Better sonically is a little bit different than this album is.
Yeah.
Because it's almost like this weird love child between like Alkaline Trio and Midtown. Whereas like this album is very much more focused on that, you know, second wave or third wave emo, whatever the fuck you want to call it.
All right. Yeah.
But it's very much like, you know, like I was like saying, like it's Matchbook Romance.
Yeah, them too.
You know, very much like something that you would see at like Cornerstone Festival or like Taste of Chaos. You could see them touring with May, you know, Armor for Sleep, all these different bands. And it was interesting because I remember like when I was like Building a Better, I think one of the main singles off that album was Mississippi Burning.
Yeah. And
I didn't realize that was about the junior varsity, his girlfriend getting murdered.
Yeah.
So that was like, I was reading the bio because I was like, I think this is the same park. Let me pull it up really quick. And then once you said they're from Chicago, I'm like, okay, yeah, I know this band. I haven't listened to them. They're on my iPod. Like that's right. Like how old this is. I don't even know if I had any albums from them. I think it was just a hodgepodge of songs that I had just downloaded that I had to like fix the font on.
Yeah, I specifically remember buying this record, CD. I bought the CD from Interpunk. I had, when I first was collecting, I had copies of both It Won't Snow Where You're Going and Building a Better, because some label put them out. And they've never been repressed since. And I think it was like 2011 or 2012 when they put them out. And now if you have a copy of the record, they're worth like hundreds and hundreds of dollars. I think the last time I saw It Won't Snow Where You're Going went on like Discogs. It was like $350. So,
And those are those types of albums that will never get pressed again.
Oh yeah, no way. The only way they're going to get repressed is if I inherit $1 billion and I do it, you know. Other than that, no one else is going to do it. Yeah. But so like definitely, you know, the vibes that you got were kind of where this was. Their vocalist name is Ladd, and he's a super talented guy. The one time I got a chance to see Park was actually at Hellfest. So they actually played Hellfest in 2004.
And that probably was not great for them.
Oh, no. I mean, I think there's like maybe 20 people watching them. I also think that they played at the same time as like Sworn Enemy or like some band that like thousands of people wanted to see. But yeah, like you could see them, right? Like opening for, you know, Armor for Sleep and Boys Night Out. Like it's right there. It's right in that pocket.
Now, was I wrong in saying that the first 10 seconds were almost carbon copies of the drum, like intro part to Sugar We're Going Down?
Very similar. And
like when you now have the backstory, like from Chicago,
right
at the same time, like who copied who?
Right. I'm sure that, from Under the Cork Tree came out in 2003. right? I think
No,
2003?
05.
05.
Yeah.
It came out our senior year.
Well, and I think Won't Snow came out in 03. So technically they were kind of doing it first, but the way those drums sounded is like 2000s emo drums. Like the way, like you can hear the way they're tracked, like the way.
But the drums being in isolation at the very beginning of the song
Right.
is the exact same thing
As from under as
Sugar We're Going Down.
Yeah,
Yeah.
no, for sure.
Can we talk about that Hellfest 2004 lineup really quickly?
Ooh,
Wasn't there something like, was it that one where there was like some,
Bad Luck 13
Bad
riot.
Luck 13. Yeah, that was the riot.
They
Okay.
destroyed. They literally ripped bleachers out and destroyed them.
But I just want to like I'm not even gonna talk about all the bands. I'm just gonna shoot through them really quickly. All That Remains, As They Lay Dying, Dead Season, Ed Gein, Every Time I Die, Glass Eater, Halifax, Hawthorne Heights, Mastodon, Himsa, Norma Jean, Pig Destroyer, Shadows Fall, Sick of It All. I'm not even naming all of them. I'm just going through the ones that I know off the bat.
Oh yeah.
Suffocation, Terror, The Ataris, The Red Chord, Today Is the Day,
Ataris?
Honor.
Yeah, the Ataris.
The Ataris
The Ataris played main stage too.
Yeah.
were people ripping the bleachers out because of that?
No, dude, so
Probably.
many people were watching the Ataris.
What?
Yeah.
I was one of them.
That makes no
Unearth,
sense.
With Honor,
Yep.
Your Friend's Enemy, Your Friend's Enemy, Your Enemy's Friends, Agnostic Front, Andrew WK, Bane, Beloved, Between the Buried and Me, Blood for Blood, Bury Your Dead, Comeback Kid, Dead to Fall, Evergreen Terrace, For the Love of, Glass Casket, Horse the Band, Killswitch Engage, Let It Die, Martyr AD, Park, Prayer for Cleansing, Reflux, Scars of Tomorrow, Suffocate Faster, The Banner, The Killing, The Minor Times, Under Oath, Undying, Until the End, X Death Star X, Zeo, and then Alexis on Fire, Bear vs. Shark, Converge, Death by Stereo, Fear Before, Fear Factory, It Dies Today.
How did they even pay all of these bands?
Dude.
It was a 3-day sold out show.
Yeah, it was. So it was at this place called the Rexplex, and it was literally an indoor sports complex, and Under Oath specifically. I went with a couple of people from Deer Park, and
Because it was in Jersey, right?
it was in Jersey, and Phil Rini, if you remember Phil Rini,
Mhm.
he got on stage during Under Oath, and there's a picture of him, like just on stage with Under Oath. Under Oath's crowd was absolutely it was absolute madness. Every Time I Die was madness. Converge was madness. Zeo was crazy. One of the people we went with, this dude Peter, got a bunch of his teeth kicked out during Zeo.
My God.
And then the Bad Luck 13 thing was like the most infamous thing. So I didn't catch the Bad Luck 13 set, but I walked by it and I saw some girl with I didn't actually see it, but I saw the blood coming from her face. She got hit with a light tube
Oh my God.
in her eye.
Oh my God.
And then what else did they do? They threw pigs' heads out into the crowd. They literally dismantled. There were like bleachers. The crowd ripped the bleachers out and started hitting each other with the bleachers. It was absolute pandemonium, and it's the reason that Hellfest 2005 was nowhere near what Hellfest 2004 was, and it's also the reason that they couldn't have it at the Rexplex anymore, because after that happened, they were like, "Yeah, you guys could all fuck off."
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
it was a serious thing. It was a serious time, and it was the Juliana Theory, I think, also played because I remember seeing them. Spitalfield played because I remember seeing them.
Shai Hulud played.
Shai Hulud played. I remember seeing them. Who else?
Dillinger, the number 12 looks like you.
Yeah, the number 12 was great. Planes Mistaken for Stars played. I saw them. I saw
Walls of Jericho.
Walls of Jericho did. Yeah, it was also crazy. Dude, it was a blast, man. It was something else. And we actually met these dudes who got me into A Life Once Lost. I hadn't heard of them, and there were these Spanish dudes that were in the room next to us, and they just like walked through the adjoining door because we got a hotel. They just walked through the adjoining door, and they were like, "Oh, are you guys going to the fest too?" And we were like, "Yeah," and we just had like a cooler of beer, and we were like, "Do you guys want to drink with us?" And they were like, "Yeah, sure." And then like we all got to drinking, and the dude was like, "Oh, I'm so stoked to see A Life Once Lost." And I'm like, "I've never heard of them." And he's like, "You never heard of them?" And put them on. It was like, and I was like, "Yeah, okay, I'm for this." But yeah, so yeah, we should have like just a whole episode about Hellfest 2004. We really could. But
We should do a Netflix documentary.
yeah, fuck yeah, we could.
But I guess my final thoughts on Park to just kind of bring it back. In 2003, I would have loved them.
Right.
In 2025, I'm like, this is kind of a little rough.
I guess
so. It made me think of that band Rufio. It's the same thing. Like,
yeah,
Rufio in 2002, I loved, and I was like, this is so cool. Like, totally loved it. And I think it was maybe like the factor of the band name, right? Like.
Yeah.
It's such a cool band name. I was like instantly hooked on them.
For sure.
But if I was introduced to that band in 2025, I'd be like, oh my God, this is making my ears bleed. Like, I don't think I can appreciate this.
Yeah.
And it goes to show just like how, I don't want to say like much better pop punk has gotten and like how much more polished it's gotten and recording has gotten.
Yeah.
But I'm sure there are so many people in the year 2025 that absolutely love Park, and that's probably some of their favorite band because of when they were exposed to it.
Right.
And I don't know. I don't know if it doesn't necessarily hold up like the Age of Time, but it's hard because you grew up liking them at the time. Yeah. Like when they were doing things.
For sure.
I feel like if they did a remaster of that album, you would have probably different opinions on it.
Also that, right? Like even some of our favorite albums, if you go back and listen with 20-25 years, you're like, oh, this is kind of rough. Like some of those early Taking Back Sunday records, you're like, ugh, like this recording's kind of shitty.
Right.
I don't know, man. Young and Aspiring was recorded right down here in St. Cloud, Florida with James Paul Wisner, and that album still holds up to this day.
Oh, they're only chasing safety?
Oh, they're only chasing safety. Yeah, I'm sorry. I don't know.
Yeah, no, I mean, but there are some records that just will always hold up, right? They're only chasing safety being one of them, right? Is that, I mean, for me, Take This to Your Grave. I mean, like that record, I think transcends anything. Not that I love to mention them these days because the singer's a fucking creep. But Stay What You Are by Saves the Day, another transcendent record that I think if it came out today, a lot of people would love it. But then like when you go 10 years in the future. I mean, like, could you imagine, right, with, listening to The Hum Goes On Forever, right? And then go listen to The Upsides, right? Mm-hmm. And, like, The Upsides is a great record, but, like, it's almost like you couldn't imagine the current Wonder Years writing a record that's so I don't even know the word for it. It's like,
oh, you'd say, or even Get Stoked on it.
Oh, Get Stoked on it. Forget it. I mean, even the Wonder Years hate Get Stoked on it, but it's like, like you just like that gap that's bridged, in pop punk is so different. And Rufio is a great example, bringing Rufio up because they kind of were like, okay, we're a skate punk band, but we're also like a pop punk band. And, we love Lifetime and Slick Shoes, but we also love, like Fall Out Boy,
Shred metal. Yeah,
and you know, we also, but and then obviously all their weird metally shit that they do, but you know, it's a record that when you go back and listen to it, it is rough around the edges. You know, perhaps I suppose it definitely is a little crunchy, a little weird. But you know, you also got to remember like what access these bands had to recording equipment at the time, and what was popular sounding at the time. You know, like if you were a pop punk band in like the early 2000s and you wrote a record that sounded like Lifetime, like you were doing it. You were doing the right thing. But nowadays, you know, there's only a handful of bands that are still writing music like Lifetime.
Yeah.
And that's just because we're 30 years removed from Lifetime and pop punk has evolved, you know? So, you know, the evolution of music is wild. But on that note, I think this was a cool segment and I'm definitely going to do it maybe every other week. We'll see. But there's a ton of stuff. I mean, I've got stuff queued up. I've got ones that are going to blow Mikey's mind. I've got ones that are going to blow Justin's mind. Like I've got one specifically for it. But what I will promise you, and this is a promise, you will not see anything that happened after 2010. Because it's not retro, really. It's like ham-fisted retro. But
dude, it's not even, I feel like you got to just rename this segment as just classic rock with Tom, because it is classic rock at this point.
I mean, I was either gonna do this Park song or I was gonna just make you guys listen to Unforgiven 2 by Metallica.
Nah, man, Unforgiven 3's where it's at.
Yeah, Unforgiven 3 is a good one too. or just make you listen to Saint Anger.
I'm fine with that too. Saint Anger is blossomed into a new metal classic.
It's that snare drum makes me want to absolutely obliterate myself. But hey, so I'll lead us out because you know, I can do that. So thank you if you did tune in. Thanks for checking everything out. Dyne Side rules, Orthodox rules, Movements rules, fucking Heart Attack Man rules, and Keep Flying. I like to say that they rule is like an understatement, you know. So we picked a bunch of good tracks this week, and you know, hopefully you know, this is the first time you heard them. You know, we'd kind of love to hear what you thought. You know, so if you catch this and you know you want to reach out to us and be like, I agree with you about what you said about Movements, or I don't agree with you about what you said about Movements, like, you know, we kind of dig that interaction. So. But we're going to come back at you next Friday with a whole slew of new songs. It's going to, is it, how many days? There's 28 days in February, right?
Yeah, something like that.
Unless it's leap year.
Okay. So you know, you're going to see us on the 28th of February, which is weird because that's the like last day of the month. And it's weird that this month is like that. I don't really understand it. I guess it has something to do with the Mayans, but yeah, so thanks for listening. Thanks for hanging with us. You know, and if you want to interact with us, you know, when you go to our YouTube, you just go into the comments section and you just say some shit, you know, it'll pop up and we'll shoot, you know, we'll shout you out and you know, you can feel good about it. So, on that note, to Mikey, to Justin, this has, as always, been such a blast. And I'm sure next week we'll come up with some cool shit to listen to, and we'll run it back.
All right. Well, peace be with you guys. Enjoy your weekend.
And with your spirit.
We will throw this music that we listened to tonight up on our emo adjacent playlist. So please go follow that. We're getting close to like 200 followers on our playlist, which is cool. It makes me feel like, you know, we got a little influence, right? We are sharing our music that we love with you, and you're digging it. So help us get over 200 followers on the playlist, and make sure you subscribe to the channel so that you can join us next week or in the future when we do these, because we personally just love doing it.
Yeah.
So we're going to keep doing it. So hopefully you can see how passionate we are about our emo adjacent music, and we will catch you on the other side.
Oh, go listen to Bambi by Anxious. It's
Yes.
the best.
It
the
is
best record. It's the best one.
I didn't choose any songs this week from Bambi so I could listen to the entire album.
It's the best.
And it's great. Knuckle Puck shouted him out too. Like, you have to go listen to him. If you haven't listened to Anxious, go listen to Anxious. What are you doing? Go hit play immediately.
So good. So good. So freaking good. Guys,
Leave it on that note.
Yeah, love you. And we'll see you next week.
Peace.